Now, I'm a person who believes very, very strongly in the power of prayer, and that prayer changes things. And so I'm going to ask everyone, please join me in praying for the families of the folks who lost their lives today. Pray for the speedy recovery for those who are hurt and were injured in what happened today. But maybe even more to the point, we're a country and a city that needs prayer. So I'm going to ask you all to join me also in praying for this city, that we can come together at a time like this, and that we can be there for one another the way we always have in times like this, to support one another, help us all get through this very difficult time, not just in our city, but in our country. And that's why I'd ask you to pray for our nation. There's a lot going on right now in our country. A lot of it's confusing. It's a scary time. I've got children. I've got 3 young children, and I'm here to tell you that it is challenging to explain to them what's going on in our country right now. But I said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in the power of prayer to change things, and it can change the hearts of people. It can change this country, it can change the city, so please pray.
Want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Hey.
Why this beat so cold?
We will make America proud again. And you try to we will make America wealthy again. And yes, together, we will make America great again.
And they said that immigration enforcement, you know what they said? That immigration enforcement had detained a 5-year-old autistic girl in order to get to that girl's father. Turned out that story was a complete fabrication. It was a complete dishonest lie. But when you go around and lie about our law enforcement and you tell them that they're mistreating 5-year-old girls, what do you think is going to happen? When Democratic politicians incur doxing, when they encourage us to unmask ICE enforcement officers, what do you think is going to happen? When the mayor of Los Angeles encourages violent protesters to get in the face of our law enforcement, what do you think is going to happen?
And then call them peaceful. You know, this is what it leads up to. All the gaslighting and fear mongering every single day from the fake news media, from the left, from Democrats.
What's going to happen is political violence, and political violence has gotten out of control in this country. We got to stop it. We got to condemn it. And that starts, unfortunately, at the very top of the Democratic Party. If you want to stop political violence, stop attacking our law enforcement as the Gestapo. If you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi. If you want to stop political violence, look in the mirror. That's the way that we stop political violence in this country, and we got to do it. And while we're all mourning and rooting for and praying for everybody who was injured at that ICE facility, and as far as we know, it looks like some of the detainees, in other words, some of the potential illegal aliens, were some of those who were affected. Look, just because we don't support illegal aliens, we don't want them to be executed by violent assassins engaged in political violence either. So we're praying both for our ICE agents, but also for everybody who's affected by this terrible attack. But that was an ICE facility. And as these guys behind me know, and a few of our police officers know, police officers writ large face too many threats.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, here we are, family. I told y'all we were going to bring some of the best updates and keep you informed, and especially what's going on from yesterday, what we covered on the show with the ICE facility. But, man, the times that we are living in, man, We do not know what to expect next. Like I always tell y'all, man. We send our prayers, our love, our condolences. I hope that everybody that's tuning in right now, that you are blessed, well, and healthy, that you are in good spirits, you know, that you are surrounded by love and positivity, especially in these dark times, in this dark month of September. What a month of September it's been, as we've seen. What a month of September, you know. But told you guys to continue to send me stuff. And what's the name? Julie sent me this right here. I wanted to get into and said it was really great on this whole thing. So, and it's come from Liberal Hive Mind. So let's go and jump into this bad boy. It's titled "It Happened Again." Oh boy.
App. Sometimes it might even make you feel a little bit special. If you made a prediction, if you called it, then it happens. You can feel an immense sense of pride. But in this case, I dread being right. I'm not celebrating it. In this case, I'm disgusted. I'm infuriated. It's so incredibly unfortunate that we are here. Not only that left-wing violence is going to escalate because the left refuses to condemn what is clearly an epidemic, a rise in violence and extremism on their side. We've seen how the Democrat Party, left-wing thought leaders, the mainstream media refuses to name the elephant in the room. It's not just that prediction, but it's also what I just said recently, that we are going to see more and more of this, especially following the Tyler Robinson situation. What's likely to happen here?
Yeah, the Charlie Kirk assassination, and then they still came out literally, and then came out on the day of his funeral. You know, with the same crap, with the same rhetoric, with the same hatred, bashing, the same stuff, and which caused that to take place. They doubled down after the assassination of seeing the man publicly executed. After spending years and years calling us fascists, Nazis, we're this, we're that. And then they come back after the man is executed, assassinated, and hit us with the same crap. It doesn't stop. And then blame his own death on him. They blamed him, they blamed Charlie. It's Charlie's fault. And then after that, they blame the gun. It's the gun's fault.
Here, especially considering the left's inaction, is that we're going to start seeing copycats. We're going to see young radicals looking at what Tyler Robinson did and being inspired to copycat and do the same thing. And of course, we just saw that recently, a shooting at an ABC affiliate building, then a shooting at a wedding with some left-wing nutcase yelling, "Free Palestine," and now it seems we have a literal Tyler Robinson copycat situation as another left-wing shooter with a scoped rifle sets up on top of a rooftop and starts indiscriminately shooting at ICE officers. Many have been pronounced dead, and of course we now have a motive. Ding, 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 another left-wing shooter. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so just like I said, the danger of this culture of violence that the left-wing has been engaging in is that once the genie's out of the bottle, it's really hard to put it back in. And so now we seem to be seeing a violent snowball effect.
Hi, I'm Diane Macedo. We are coming on the air with breaking news. Multiple people are dead after a shooting at a Dallas ICE field office this morning. I spoke with Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons just moments ago. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
It appears to be a sniper from an elevated position. Initially 3 individuals were shot. We do have multiple fatalities. All ICE agents and officers at the location are accounted for right now. It's still an active scene. From what we know, the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dallas Police Department and the Texas Department of Public Safety have been great help to secure the scene. So it's still active right now in the sense that we're still trying to learn more why this happened, anyone else is involved, and just really securing the area and making sure our people are safe.
The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said in a statement that the shooter's motive is unknown. The director says it appears the suspect shot from a sniper position.
So that was the initial news that dropped, and instantly, the left took to social media and insisted that this shooter was MAGA. They made that claim based on the fact that he didn't kill ICE officers, but rather had killed detainees. But that narrative made zero sense from the start. targeting an ICE facility, it doesn't really seem like something a MAGA conservative would be doing. And obviously, that's an inherently political act and consistent with all the anti-ICE agitation that we've seen. The idea that a right-winger would be shooting at an ICE detention facility is completely incoherent considering the political alignment. But all kinds of leftists on social media started running with that very politically convenient storyline. And then, of course, the truth comes out. And again, the evidence is undeniable.
Law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable.
We also have a statement from Kash Patel, where he posted a photo of the marked bullet casings. This morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing one, wounding several others before taking his own life. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See the photo below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE.
Anti-ICE.
More updates will be forthcoming.
Anti-ICE. You know. My foot right now just can't stop shaking right now, because y'all know how, again, man, it just won't stop. You know? And as we see the left, Democrats, the fake news media, you know, and the same anti-ICE rhetoric, the same stuff they come out and say every single day, you know. And like I always say, majority of America spoke loud and clear, in which a lot of people think it is just common sense that we have to do things the right way, that we actually have a border, just common sense things, you know. And then what the left and when they did, they didn't, once again, take everything out of context. They spin everything. They put fear in people's hearts. They come out live on television and lie. You know, fascist, dictator, our democracy's under attack. You know, the same stuff over and over and over. And then when things like this happen, then they go a step further, and then they say it's MAGA. They blame us. They blame the gun. You know, it's a right winger. A disgrace, man. I'm hotter than fish grease.
Coming. And so again, undeniable, another left-wing radical mobilized to violence by left-wing activism and rhetoric. And that, of course, should be the conversation we're having, but no, instead, the mainstream media is focused on somehow attempting to draw this twisted connection to right-wing attacks of violence.
Inspired? Are you worried about copycats?
Yes. I don't know if the rooftop trend is going to be a thing. I mean, it could just be coincidental that the best vantage point just happened to be elevated positions in this case. But, you know, people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand, and he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds very hateful information. So to see this coming from potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange, because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff, I don't know why you would use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Instead of drilling into the obvious signs, the engraved bullets, the targeted selection, instead of drawing the clear connection to Tyler Robinson, which is the most recent example, they're going back over a decade on this ridiculous detour into this both sidesism, whataboutism nonsense. Let's connect it all to the first supposed right-wing act of violence. The same pattern: dismiss, distract, anything but pointing to left-wing radicalism. They spin, they deflect, they double down on these both sides narratives. It's absolute cowardice and it's dangerous. Maybe instead of connecting it to a completely unrelated case that happened a long time ago and really had nothing to do with right-wing leadership and everything to do with a radicalized individual who had his own racist agenda, maybe, just maybe, make the connection between these latest acts of violence and the Democrat rhetoric that we constantly hear. I mean, right before this happened, look at what Gavin Newsom was saying on a late-night comedy show just the night prior.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today.
I told you, same thing over and over and over. They ought to walk his butt out in handcuffs. California dumpster fire. A run for president is a laughing stock. A complete laughing stock. To even think that something like this would even be president one day.
People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of
black and brown. And once again, he knows what he's doing, And this is how they play in y'all face. This is how they play in the face. I'm telling you, man.
Asking also to require you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up fine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization, basically a terrorist organization, saying he's going after his enemies. You saw the tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. That's happening in the United States.
Again, more exaggerated, hyperbolic political rhetoric, pouring fuel on the flames, normalizing this idea of rising up against perceived authoritarianism on the other side. That kind of rhetoric matters. Words clearly have consequences. And we've seen the rhetoric that the left has been engaging in. It's not just Gavin Newsom.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they are not.
Take this heifer back to the bar. I mean, man.
That they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative...
They ought to walk in there and just walk y'all butt out. They ought to walk in Congress and just clean house. There needs to be handcuffs and term limits. Investigations, audits. I mean, they ought to just walk down there and clean that whole thing up down there in Washington. That's what I ought to think ought to happen. And walk this heifer, y'all. Just drop her off at the bar.
For any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it.
And she thinks
and
she's some
it
hot
is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested. Okay?
It's AOC and every other left-wing figure and all the TikTok activists who follow suit, who regularly compare conservatives to fascists, who claim that ICE are Gestapo, this mainstream political movement that repeatedly dehumanizes our side, this culture of creating moral cover for violent actors. We're going to pretend as if we're surprised when attacks on ICE agents are up 1,000%? Again, I am done with your both sides nonsense. And I'm not taken by your phony outrage claiming that Donald Trump is such a bad person for clearly identifying what is happening on the left. We are seeing an actual domestic terrorism problem emerging from the left wing. And it's really not abstract. It's pretty damn clear. This is the inevitable outcome of a culture that refuses to police its own rhetoric and intentionally blurs the line between activism and violence. Or basic conservative common sense policy and fascism. Democrats and their media allies can keep pretending that this is a symmetrical problem, or maybe, just maybe, they can finally stand up and do the right thing. Call it out, name it. Stop excusing it. Stop pushing narratives that protect political allies. If you actually care about public safety, you don't shrug when violence comes from your side, especially not at epidemic levels like this. We are not stupid. It is very obvious. Again, it's not abstract. It's very clear where this is coming from. Stop the normalization of violence. Stop pretending your rhetoric doesn't have consequences after spending the last 8 years lecturing us on rhetoric having consequences and Donald Trump's supposed incitement to violence. Be consistent for half a frickin' second. We've seen 4 left-wing acts of terror in the last 2 weeks. That is not normal. That is an epidemic. That is left-wing domestic extremism, domestic terrorism. And there's no more beating around the bush. That is what's going on.
Yep. Just can't make this up, family. We're going to continue to bring you updates, keep you informed. I love you guys, man. Y'all be safe out there. Know how to protect and defend yourself. Trust your gut feeling, you know. And hey, man, continue to spread the love. One love. God is love, y'all. And we do not know what to expect next. You know, prayers for America. Prayers. My prayers go out to all of you guys, man. I love y'all, family. You know. But it's just a lot of hatred, derangement, lies, misinformation, you know, good versus evil. Not left versus right. It's good versus evil, man. You know. To see things like this happen at the ICE facility, I mean, it just, you know, we've seen these protests. We're seeing people burn American flags, all kind of stuff. You know, throwing rocks at cars. I mean, just all kind of ridiculous bullshit. You know, when the people spoke loud and clear. And then what they do is what the left and Democrat, the fake news media does, and they keep inviting them on to repeat the exact same script. You know, put fear in people's hearts, lie. They're going to the schools, the churches. They're disappearing people, you know, the same stuff, man. And then these are your results. Got bullet castings that says anti-ICE. I mean, man. But hey, I love y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. We got some more big things to get into on today's show. And I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace and love, family.